What's going on, everybody? I am Greg Peters and you are watching the Greg Peters channel, and this is BoostVlogs. Now, I haven't posted a BoostVlogs in about 3 years, but today's procedure is pretty simple. Doesn't really warrant a full main channel video production, but I feel like a lot of Miatas out there probably suffer from this issue, and today I'm going to be fixing mine. So let's hop into the Miata real quick and I'll show you guys what I'm talking about. So a lot of you commenters have noticed a little issue that I have with my Miata. Oh, you know what? Actually, hold up. Let me just mic up my clutch pedal real quick to give you the full ASMR effect on this bad boy. Yes, I've got the Miata Squeaky clutch. Today I'll be fixing that. And I'm also testing out some new audio and camera and lighting equipment. Something that lets me get deep into the pedal bay of the Miata. Look at that. So I can actually show you guys what I'm doing instead of trying to stuff a DSLR in here. But today I'll be replacing the clutch pedal bushing. I believe that is the source of my squeaking issue. So let me go grab some parts and we will continue on. So here's the part number for the bushings I'll be using. Some genuine Mazda. There are 2 bushings, one for each side of the pedal. Oh, and there's my RC Drift Odyssey stanced out on Workmeisters. Okay, anyways, so this is what I'm replacing. These are $5, and I believe, now I've never done this before, but I believe all I have to do is remove the clutch pedal. If you've never been in this position in your Miata, you have never truly worked on your Miata. So our first step is going to be to remove the clutch pedal assembly. First thing you'll have to do is disconnect the master cylinder rod, which yours will be a little bit different from mine because I have the Wilwood clutch master cylinder. Mine just pops that clip off, pull the pin out, and that's disconnected. And then we're gonna have to pull off this plastic nut, which I think normally holds some interior in place. There's also a bolt right up there. We'll just have to remove that and also unplug the top clutch switch. Also unplug your bottom clutch switch, the starter interlock, if you still have that active in your car. And this whole assembly should come right out. Next step is to unbolt your master cylinder, and again, mine is going to look a little bit different because I have that Wilwood master with a conversion plate, but a normal Miata you just have that one nut on the very bottom, and then diagonally across from it, that other nut that's right there on top, and then once you remove those nuts completely, the whole clutch pedal assembly will just drop out. Once you get those nuts off, your clutch master cylinder will be completely loose, and so should your clutch pedal assembly. Haha! My clutch interlock switch harness is zip tied up there somewhere. There we go, clutch pedal assembly. Now, let's take this thing into the lab and see what we can do to fix it up. One thing I did just do right now is there's normally a little rubber bushing that goes in there and a little rubber bushing that goes in the back of that pushes that button down. And this one just disintegrated as I was taking the clutch pedal out. So I was like, I mean, for now, I'll just pop this one off since this is actually the important one. And this one just disintegrated. So I gotta order those. I think they're a couple bucks, so not really that big of a deal. And you don't have to pull the pedal assembly to replace them, so not really too concerned with that. Now this white switch right here is your clutch interlock. This is the button that gets pushed when you push the clutch pedal in. But this is what stops the starter from firing unless your clutch pedal is pushed in. But I don't have the interlock. I have the interlock deleted. There's a jumper in the car, so it will start with the clutch pedal out. I like it that way, especially with the heavier clutch, because when your clutch is in, it puts pressure on the thrust bearing on the crankshaft, especially when you have a heavier pressure plate and there's no oil in there yet, so you're cranking the motor over with no oil in the thrust bearing. If you start the car up with the clutch pedal out, there's no pressure on the thrust bearing, so it's a little bit healthier. You know, I really believe it can make the thrust bearing last a lot longer, and I sure would hate to have to take my motor apart just to do a thrust bearing, literally taking the entire engine apart. So that's why I have my interlock deleted, and I'm actually going to take this assembly off because I don't need it. The cheap way to delete the starter interlock is you take what this plugs into, the plug that's still in the car, and you just jumper it with a little piece of wire and stuff it into the plug and then tape it up, and then your car will start without the clutch pushed in. I think UK cars don't even have this, which is kind of weird because it is a safety feature. So if you start your car with the transmission in gear, the car will jump forward and go through the garage door, so don't do that. Next thing to do is remove this 14 millimeter. Let's see if it comes out by hand. Oh, yep. And then anytime you are, it's kind of too late for me to do this now, but anytime you're working with something where a spring is going to come out or multiple pieces are going to come out, it's a good idea to try to take pictures and take mental note of how all this is situated in here. This is pretty simple, how that spring goes on. You just want to take note of how that is, so when you go to put it back together, you don't have to try to put it in wrong and whatnot. Now, of course, it's a Miata, so there's a bajillion pictures online everywhere, but it's just good practice no matter what kind of car you're working on. So the bushings are not as destroyed as I thought, but they're definitely old and crusty, possibly worn down. But even if these bushings were not the direct cause of the squeaking, something in here is causing the pedal to squeak. And removing it gives you the opportunity to clean out everything and grease up all the moving parts. Another thing I see in here is they're just like the spring is just old and crusty, and there's some rust in there, and everything's just like dry and nasty, and it's got a bunch of gunk and whatnot. So I can clean up the whole assembly, again, grease the moving parts, put it all back together, and then hope it doesn't squeak anymore. Another possibility is these old crusty spring coils rubbing against each other and creaking as they tighten up as you push the clutch in. So I'm gonna, obviously this is hard to do with one hand, but I'm just using some purple power and scrubbing all the debris out of the spring. I'll re-grease that bad boy before I put it back in. And there was no grease left on the pivot pin either. It was just like old dried crust. This is the little bushing housing. So once that's all slopped up, these bushings just pop in like that. Flip it over. Oh, don't run away on me. And then that can go through the bushing. Put some grease where the spring wraps around, because that's some metal to metal contact. And everywhere the spring contacts, I'm gonna put just a little film of grease. I'm gonna put some on the spring itself. The spring just rests down there on the top of this pedal assembly. So you just kind of stick the tip right there and then push this down. You will have to push against the spring a little bit. Just got to push it down until that hole lines up, and then you can slide the bolt through. Alright, now this bad boy is back together. A little pro tip, just in case you bust your upper bushing like I did. The button for the upper clutch switch goes right through the hole that the bushing sits in. So if you do this as a temporary fix so you can drive your car and not break your upper clutch switch, you can just put a little piece of tape or something over that hole so it will actually depress that button, like so. You can see it actually pushes the button now, it doesn't go through. This way, in case I absolutely have to stunt on someone, while I'm waiting for these bushings to ship, the flat shift and launch control will still be functional. And would you look at that, complete darkness once again, as if you're surprised. So this clutch pedal, now you just jam it up in there, line those studs up with the holes right there. And then once you get it lined up, you can put those master cylinder nuts back on, and then the one bolt, this bolt right here, that goes straight up into the top, plug your switches back in, and hopefully you have a silent clutch. All right, we're all plugged back in, reassembled. This is the moment of truth, ladies and gentlemen. Will it squeak? I'm nervous. Ah, you hear that? Friggin' nothing. This thing's gonna be like a brand new car. Let's fire up that E85 cold start, boys. Take two. Take three. Ah, it's silent. So nice. No power steering life. So, I hope this reparation video helped someone out there. It certainly is going to help my subscribers not freak out in the comment section anymore about my squeaky clutch. If you like this video, make sure you slam a like on it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace out.